The first domino has fallen for the Raptors on NBA trade deadline day as they have made a trade with the Utah Jazz that sends out one of their first round picks. Let's break it down for you in today's Amateur Sports 2 video. Let's get into it. Like I said, this is Amateur Sports 2, the second channel in the Amateur Production Network for additional Toronto Raptors content and videos just like this. Drop a like if you enjoy this one along the way and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll have a main channel video out later today breaking down the entire trade deadline day, but because of the real fury that came from Raptors fans after the trade was revealed, I kind of want to give my stance on this, and I want to convey to you why this trade is probably better than you think it is for the Raptors. We thought that Bruce Brown might have been heading to the Utah Jazz after reports that came out yesterday, but in fact, it is Otto Porter Jr. heading to the Utah Jazz along with a 2024 first-round pick. And the Raptors get Kelly Olynyk, the Canadian Captain Canuck, and Ochai Agbaji from the Utah Jazz. Outgoing is, like I said, Otto Porter Jr., a 2024 first-round pick, and Kyra Lewis. Well, a 2024 first-round pick, like Agbaji's decent. Olynyk, I mean, we know what he is. He's a vet, but my goodness, a 2024 first-round pick. This is your first lesson of the day, potentially. Not all first-round picks are created equal. A first-round pick is a blanket term. Is it a first-round pick that's going to be the first overall pick? Is it a 30th overall pick? Those two picks have vastly different valuations, so a first-round pick could mean a lot of things. And in this instance, this first-round pick means the first-round pick that is going to be the least favorable of the picks that come from OKC, the Clippers, the Rockets, or the Jazz. So probably an OKC or Clippers first. The Clippers look like a top 2 team in the NBA when they're healthy. OKC are right at the top of the Western Conference. So pretty much what you have here is a 27th, 28th, or 29th overall pick that you're trading here. So this is not like a top tier lottery pick here. This is one of the worst picks in the first round. And if you consider the picks that the Raptors have at their disposal here, they have the Indiana first, this pick they just traded, and a second round pick from the Detroit Pistons, which is likely going to be the 31st overall pick. That 31st overall pick, believe it or not, is going to be more valuable in a trade than this first round pick. So just because it's a, quote, first round pick doesn't really give you any sort of indication as what valuation that is going to have for the trade. That the reason being for that Detroit Pistons pick being a little bit better valuation-wise is because you're going to have more flexibility on the contract with that player that you draft. Or won't be that 4-year contract. And also on top of that, you're not going to have to pay that player nearly as much because they are a second round pick rather than a first round pick. And I think there's some little bit of added incentive now for having that second round pick, the first pick of the second round, because the first and second round of the NBA draft are no longer going to be on the same day. So now you have an entire day to work with the information that you have going into the second round. You have an entire day to plan for that pick early in the second round, which is just a little bit of an added bonus onto that pick as well. So flexibility of contract, flexibility on salary, that makes that very early second round pick just that little bit more valuable than that late first round pick. And along the way, the Raptors got a pretty decent player here. Most people are looking at this one, and big media companies who know that Raptors fans will likely know Kelly Olynyk and not perhaps Ochai Agbaji. But Agbaji is the better player in the trade, like the more important and more significant player in the trade. If you guys remember, he was part of the Donovan Mitchell trade. He was drafted, I believe it was 14th overall by the Cavaliers, making him, yes, a lottery pick. Was sent over in the Donovan Mitchell trade, and for the Jazz, look, these stats aren't going to be necessarily eye-popping here, but here's a player who has somewhat of a decent touch from three, like a player you can definitely work with from a three-point shooting standpoint, but not much of an offensive guy. Yes, he'll be out there. He can kind of shoot the ball, but not much of an offensive guy. Where you're getting valuation for Agbaji right now is in the defense. He is a big shooting guard. He's 6'5", 6'6". He's got a really good frame, and he's pretty athletic. So a good defensive player, and he's a good defensive player that moves pretty well in transition as well, which is something the Raptors can definitely work with. But defensively, like the Raptors needed a big wing. My goodness, we've been watching the team lately. The Raptors needed a big wing, and they got it here, and they got it in one who kind of has some sort of ability to maybe trend upwards from a shooting standpoint. So I like the way Agbaji trends as a role player going forward for this team. I think best case out of him, he's your fifth starter, but I think like an upper tier role player is where you would hope he ends up and makes it a pretty good move by the Raptors here. You have to ask yourself, what is going to be better? A 27, 28, or 29th overall pick or Agbaji? The Raptors were always going to prioritize, and I've been saying this in my content, the Raptors were always going to prioritize players over picks on deadline day. They've done it here. I think I'd rather bank on Ochai Agbaji rather than whatever you could get very late on in the first round of the draft. Now, the other player involved here is Kelly Olynyk. I think Kelly Olynyk, well, I mean, for starters, a Kelly Olynyk contract situation, this one becomes a little bit strange here. I don't know quite what he's making this season. I just want to double check that for you guys here. But a UFA here makes this one a little bit more puzzling. You have to ask yourself if you want to bring him back for next season. But a UFA at the end of the season, making $12 million this season. Maybe a touch confusing why the Raptors really wanted to bring him in as part of this trade here. From a salary standpoint, it didn't really need to happen based on the math. But at least in this situation, Kelly Olynyk is on an expiring contract. So if you want to let him walk, you can let him walk. And for the rest of the season, last 30 games are less likely to be just complete mush here because you've got a solid player. Like Kelly Olynyk's a decent player, somewhat underrated, can absolutely score successfully on the inside, is a good three-point shooter, having the best three-point shooting season of his career right now, actually, on low volume, albeit. But this is a player that absolutely is good enough to start for the Raptors right now, given their current situation. But he'll probably be the backup big to Jakob Poeltl. Good backup big. Raptors very much needed a backup big. They add some size in here. And offensively, the floor spacing that Kelly Olynyk is going to provide to the team is going to open up a lot more avenues to the rim for the likes of Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. He'll make a nice pick and roll partner for Emmanuel Quickley in some certain situations. Like the spacing he'll provide on offense will be nice for the rest of the season. And his high post elbow playmaking is something that Canadian fans saw at the FIBA World Cup that worked really well. And I think it's going to help with the Raptors as well. Here's a player that kind of fits into what Darko wants to employ with this team with a lot of passing being involved. Kelly Olynyk can fit that in for the rest of the season. Again, for the rest of the season doesn't mean much for the Raptors. They're going to be tanking here, but if we're worried about developmental reps, here's a good vet who fits a positional need, who is going to make life easier for the main core unit of the Raptors going forward. Not a horrible player to take on here. Hopefully, hometown guy or home country guy, hopefully comes back to the Raptors, maybe on a team-friendly deal for next season. But the centerpiece of this return here of the package, the Raptors were targeting Agbaji, it seems to me, and they got him. So your fury for the trade, seeing a first-round pick, I think, I don't think this is like a home run, grand slam success here, but this is a decently nice move here for the Raptors. Decent move to bring in a young player you can work with. You give away a pick that didn't mean too much to you anyways. Solid move to start the day. We did one of these videos to start the day last year when it was a Poeltl trade, and I said the same thing. Solid start. We need more. More stuff needs to happen. So let's see what happens for the rest of the day. Main channel video will be out later on. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you do hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content here as we get through this season, and I'll see you again very soon for some more content.